Hello my friends, my name is Max, today is Friday, and that means that we are opening yet another issue of the Imperium Magazine. This time this is issue number 18. We have some Necron character over here, and let's see what's inside of the magazine. Inside we find the magazine itself. Now we know that this is a Necron Technomancer with a really large base. This looks like a 50mm base. And what looks like a really bizarre sprue. And it is bizarre because of its color. I'm gonna explain why it looks a bit different in a moment. And let's take a look at the magazine first. First, they explain us who the Necron Technomancer is. This is a Cryptech commander. They explain his gear, Staff of Lights, Canoptic Cloak, this really cool looking cloak, really like the Necron cloaks. And of course, it is all about Cryptechs and explaining who the Cryptechs are. Here we can give a name to our character. We can add some ancient degradations by throwing dice, war gear details, we can name our Staff of Lights, and we can do all sorts of tracking over here over the games. On the next page, they tell us more about Power Armor, Space Marine Power Armour, Tools of War Power Armor, Terminator Armor, looks incredibly cool, really nice swords, Imperial Feasts over here, Indomitus Pattern Terminator Armor, Tacticus Armor, Omnis Armor, yeah, this is the one for these suppressors. This kinda a mixture, the way I understand it, between different armor patterns. Of course, my favorite, Phobos Armor, and the Gravis Armor, the heavy armor of newer Space Marines, primary Space Marines. So they have some lore about that. And next page is the classified reports of Inquisitorial archives about Drukhari. Inquisitorial Report Drukhari, sadistic killers, all sorts of cool stuff. Real Space Raiders, Soul Deaths, Camorra, the Dark City. And yeah, this is lots of tidbits and lore information about the Drukhari. Looks incredibly cool. Definitely gonna read more about that. Next page seemingly brings us a little bit of fluff concerning Pariah Nexus and Adeptus Mechanicus, trying to figure out stuff there. Abandoned Factorums, Tech Priest and Technomancer raise their weapons, urging their troops forward as the battle intensifies. Yeah, this is the picture over here. Incredibly cool art. Really nice looking cool art. Yeah, this is definitely some fluff. And next we figure out how to build the Technomancer itself. Yes, this is a 50mm base that we have here. Fits perfectly. All sorts of pipes, all sorts of strange looking things here and there. And this is how you assemble the Technomancer. And next they tell us how to paint things. This is the Rune Lord brass that is being used over here. And guess what? Our sprue looks suspiciously similar colored. Yeah, I'm gonna provide better lighting in a moment. So yeah, that is interesting. Lead Belcher, Canoptic Alloy, Corex Whites, Agrex Earth Shades, and this is how the final result looks like. I don't think this is necessarily done, because they might ask to use more stuff later on. We have still lots of black things over here, which probably should not be black. And next we arrive to the playthrough section, hunting the Technomancer. We are supposed to play with the Technomancer on one side and Primaris Aggressors apparently on the other, including Primaris Lieutenants. Yeah, so it's basically a Technomancer, Scorpic Destroyers against Primaris Lieutenants and Primaris Aggressors. We're supposed to use some terrain. This is a larger game field. The Necron starts moving, shooting, charging, and fighting. And then the Space Marines move forward. Lots of flames over here. I actually really enjoy that they have more information on the battlefield status. So it basically was taking before the half of a page. Now it's almost the whole page. Looks incredibly cool. And yeah, this is how you do the turn 2 for the Necrons on the right. And yeah, lots of fighting, lots of charging, and you can of course rematch. And you rematch, just you swap sides, and that is how you rematch. Nothing really special here. Here they tell us something about the battle mat. Included with this issue is a new battle mat depicting the war zone, which your Necrons and forces of the Imperium will battle over issue 21 and 40. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if I got this one, and the explanation for that is pretty much, yeah, we're supposed to see Minotaur armor containers next, and some paints. The explanation for that is that I got this second hand, and as you might guess, it is not necessarily complete. The mini itself is here, however, I do not see no battle mat whatsoever. And as you have already noticed, these things are in Rune Lord brass. Somebody, the person presumably who sold me this issue of the magazine, sprayed these two sprues. This is a little bit pointless in my book, but they did think otherwise clearly. And that is why this sprue looks a bit different. The reason you don't want to do this before you actually cut off bits from sprue and clean them up is because you will inevitably have unpainted bits here and there anyway. So it is more beneficial to spray the assembled mini rather than bits before you actually assemble them. And even in this case, the job was not done perfectly here, so you can see some gray over here. So the person who was spraying did not really go very thoroughly. And that is what I got. This is totally fine. It does not really prevent me from doing anything. I might have some minor issues trying to glue this thing together, but it's gonna be fine. The miniature itself is incredibly cool. I'm really happy that we're not missing any bits here, at least the way it looks so far. This is a fairly large mini. You basically are supposed to build this canoptic scarab looking base before you assemble the Technomancer himself or herself. I'm not entirely sure if they think in these terms. I really like this cool weapon over here. This one, it looks amazing. It is just incredible. And I really like the cape. This back of the torso and the cape look amazing. This is really, really, really cool. And of course, yeah, the Necromancer is standing on something that is supposed to be built from this sprue. We also have a head of a Necromancer and another hand over here. Really cool miniature. Also from year 2017, as all of the Indomitus miniatures are. Actually, it is not even Indomitus. This is pre-Indomitus, right? This is Dark Imperium. This is kind of Dark Imperium era. Wow, that looks cool. That looks very cool. Alright. And yeah, this is pretty much all I have to say about these beats. And that is gonna be it for today, my friends. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this issue of the magazine? Did you build the Necron Technomancer? Did you use this miniature in your games? Let me know. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking it and subscribe to the channel. We have tons of magazines to open, miniatures to build and kit bash, boxes to open, stay tuned for that. As always, check out the video that you see now on your screen. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.